Hi, and welcome back to this month's Chicas Charlando. My name is Zina. I'm here with the commission. And this month we're going to be discussing trauma and resilience. But before we get into today's topic, I want to give our panelists a minute to introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'll go first. Hi, my name is Devin Diaz. I'm with the Latino Commission on AIDS. I do capacity building assistance with lead and vocal City. And I'm also an essayist, and in my work, typically discuss things like gender, race, and class in the hall.
And my name is Cecilia Gentili. I am the Director of Policy at GMEC. So yeah, that's right.
Great. So thank you so much for joining us this month. And so this month we'll be talking about, like I said, trauma and resilience. So we're talking about how trauma plays a role in the lives of Black and Brown women and how trauma can be a part of our narratives. So to start out, just want to let anyone know who's viewing, you can join the conversation by either typing in the chat box, or you can join us on Twitter with the hashtag Chicas Charlando. So let's jump into the first question. So what do you think are some common traumas that are experienced by Black and Brown women?
I think I can only think about like my mom and my grandmother and my sisters, and I always, specifically with like South American, I guess, women or Latinas, I think there's this making themselves smaller, and I'm only realizing this because I've been in therapy for a year now, and I realize how I've also picked that up, where I'm always like working to make things easier for everyone around me, or like accommodating to men. I didn't realize how much of it was in me until like I was able to like take an hour out of my week to like discuss those things. But I don't think a lot of Black and Brown women have that hour a week to like download their whole week and talk about like everything that they have with like being able to withhold for everybody and hold everyone's traumas and like care for everybody while not processing their own traumas. So I think when I see that question, I think about my mom and my grandmother and how they carry it.
Well, besides thinking of my own personal history of trauma, I also go back to my mother and my grandmother and my aunts. And I come from Argentina, and the dynamics around race in Argentina are very specific because, half of the population or more are Europeans that they, came in the 40s and before, but it was a big number of people coming from in the 40s from Italy, like my grandparents from my father's side. And then it is people that have like indigenous Argentinian roots, like my mother's side. And I believe that when you look at the trauma that they go by, not just for being woman and everything that translates with being a woman in Latin America, but also on my mom's side, by being dark, by having a dark skin, and the sense of unworthiness that comes with it. I remember my grandmother, it's called my white grandmother, would make fun and call names to my mom. And the use of the N-word in Argentina is very difficult, but I'm just not gonna repeat that. I'm just gonna use the N-word, but she used to call my mom the N-word. And in a sense, were like they always made her feel less than, and they always made her feel like she was very lucky to be able to get herself a white man, right? And that's what we, what I grew up with, and like this fascination with everything that is European, and like the idea of what womanhood should be, and the pressure that comes with it. That's very, very traumatic, right? And at the same time, levels of poverty, right? My father's side, they were wealthy people, but my mom's side were very, very poor, and living as a brown woman who is poor has many more connotations that are take them like down in levels of privilege, and that is very traumatic also, being told that you're not worthy because you're a woman, because you're brown, and because you're poor.
Yeah.
I think when I was thinking about the question, my mind went to the same place. My mom grew up in Panama, and so it was very segregated there between the Panamanians that were born there, as well as like the Americans that were like there, because America owns basically territories. And just the trauma of like the separation, there was literally like a line and a gate, and if you were Panamanian, you had to be out of the gated area before sundown when they closed it, because like only the Americans could be on that side. And just thinking about like my grandmother who worked as a nanny, and she cleaned houses in that zone where the Americans lived, and every day having to cross this gate, go in there and clean these people's houses and watch their children, and then leave, and the gates closed when she was Panamanian. She was born and raised there, and so I think of like that trauma that my grandmother dealt with, and I also think back to one of our last couple of months. We talked about intimate partner violence, and so those were like the two places where my mind went when I thought of this question, this conversation around common trauma that Black and brown women experience. Mm-hmm. So thinking about that, like I'm also wondering, not just Black and brown women, but like when you're Black and you're brown and you're a woman and you're queer, right? So adding the title of queer, like what kind of dramas are specific to this group of queer?
I think when it comes to that kind of intersection, in my personal case, I have to add sexual violence, right? And how I experience sexual violence as a queer woman. And queerness, in my case, came with an assumption of the rest of the world that sexualizing me, it's okay, right? Because I'm a woman, because I'm brown, and because I'm trans in my case, right? Mm-hmm. So the understanding that those three things put me in a position for what it's okay to sexualize me, to harass me, and to violate my personal space and body in sexual ways. And that's I think like that just didn't happen because my identity as a brown woman, but it happened specifically because my identity intersects with transness. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not saying that brown women don't experience that. what I'm saying that in my case, I feel like the intersection of transness in my identity allow people to feel free to make sexual advances that are inappropriate towards me. So I find the intersection of these three things conducive to a space of sexual assault and sexual advances that are not okay with me.
Yeah. I think when you declare yourself as trans, I think people think that's like the end point. But for me, like I didn't like discover my queerness until like my early 20s. So like that was like within like the LGB was just like there's no way that you can be queer. There's no way that you can be in a lesbian relationship. Just like that's not how you work. You transition, so therefore you transition into like heterosexuality and heteropatriarchy, and like so it can be. I think for a lot of queer trans women, it can be really ostracizing because I've had experience just like gay men feeling as though that they can touch our bodies because we transition for the performance of it. So like why not touch it, or like lesbians at times being really exclusionary, and like that's not to say that those two communities at large, but it just feels like once you declare queerness as a trans person, it's just like it begins to feel like only other queer trans people can understand it because no other people can conceive that it exists. So I can only imagine that for other Black and brown women who aren't trans and queer, it's just like I found that I got so much more street harassment walking down the street with a woman romantically versus like walking down by myself or walking down the street with a guy. And so there's something about when a woman declares her queerness that becomes unbelievable to like the world at large, and everyone wants to dispute it. And that feels like particularly amplified when you're trans.
Thank you for your responses. So collective trauma is defined as trauma that happens to a group, and it can be kind of transgenerational. So what events do you think women of color have experienced that have caused collective trauma as a group?
Well, I think everything that's happening in the country is like collective trauma for everybody. Like
right
all the, like every day. I think there's collective trauma for everyone to experience. I think that with collective trauma, or like I'm currently like thinking a lot about intergenerational trauma and how like the way that my mother raised me and my sister and the way that my grandmother raised my mother has like led its effects to like for us to all have very similar traumas. And so I think you do carry the trauma of the women in your family or like the people in your family. And so I think you do carry the traumas of the people that you are in community with. So whenever I witness like transphobia or like in the media or like on the street, even if it doesn't like involve me, I feel very much involved in it because how could I not? Like those are the women that I talk to and that I hang out with and that look like me. So I think there's the collective trauma and like the language that you hear all around you all the time, and the culture that you're in. And even if you are like trying to, I think what's like the hardest part about collective trauma is like even when you're doing your best to move about your life in a really casual way and do things that you have to do because you're still a person, you still have to go to the store, you still have to like go to work, like it's still like there's still like these like really jarring reminders that like you still carry all these identities, and they always come at really inconvenient times for me, and then probably for everybody.
In my case, I do agree with the idea of collective trauma, and I just couldn't help but think about how absorbing information that may come from, for example, like the news, or how it may come from like social media, right? I just stopped looking at my Facebook account because I'm tired. I'm not tired. I just cannot deal with how much it affects me to see what my people go through every day, right? So besides it can be a wonderful day for me that everything went well, that everything is wonderful. But somehow, the reality of the community comes as a shadow all the time. And it is so hard to
Be happy sometimes.
be happy.
Yeah.
Enjoy your happiness, right? And like that's why I stopped working on direct services.
Yeah.
Because when I was doing direct services, I wasn't able to go home to sleep in my comfort having knowing that you don't have a place to sleep tonight and that you basically are not going to eat anything because you don't have money. So when you are family as mistreated in with the problems that the trans community have, and you are actively part of it, it's so hard to escape from these, traumatic events that happen to us as a community, right? So how do I walk like the 6 blocks from the train to my house when sitting on the train, I just read that another trans woman was murdered, right? So maybe that event happened in the other side of the world, right? Or happened in Brazil or in Argentina. But it's just a reminder that people kill you because you're trans, right? So then I have to walk those 6 blocks at night, from the train to home. And I'm terrified, right? And nothing happened because it's just me walking around. But the fact that I have to walk and feel vulnerable during those 10 minutes of walk is traumatizing for me, right? And it's nothing that had affected me personally in my body. Nothing was done to me, but it was done to my people, right? So being part of a community that suffers every day from discrimination, all kind of shit. I don't know if we can curse or not. Not recommended. No, it's not recommended. It's not recommended. People, we go to all kind of crap. So it affects me in my personal life, even if nothing happened directly to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like how on Facebook Live they would like, in videos it would just be like, how many black bodies killed by the police on Facebook do you need to see?
Yeah.
Like we've seen it 100 times. Like at this point, who is it for? Is it for people who like want to watch it and like want to like be sad about it very publicly and perform that, like post a hashtag and then move on the next day? Like how many times do we need to see that? We know what it looks like and it's what's happening. Like what are the rallies all adding up to? Like even though they're important, it's just like what is it all adding up to?
No, I agree. I was thinking of like that span of time last year when I think it was like within a month, I think there were like videos of 3 men killed by police that were posted within a month. Probably 3 videos back to back. And at that point I was like, okay, what, like you said, like what is this doing to watch these videos over and over and over again? And we already know that this is a group that is being mistreated by police and being targeted, right? So I think back to that when I think of collective trauma and like what does that mean? Like for me to like after the first time and having a son who's brown, like what does that mean for me and raising him?
Yeah.
Right? The trauma of like seeing that happen over and over again from these videos that are being posted.
In this case, like for me, it was, you know, I live in Argentina for like more than 20 years, and I also lived for a short period of time in Brazil. And this was like an everyday thing, right? Like, you know, violence was an everyday thing that somehow you end up assimilating as normal, right? Oh, this happened. Just people punch you in the face, you know, and like the process of understanding that this is not normal. This is not. So you don't have to live with this. It's just, you know, it comes unannounced, and it's not okay. You know, it's a process on its own, right? Because most of the time, like all of these, you know, violent events, you know, when I talk about violence, I'm not just talking about like, you know, physical violence, like, you know, emotional violence, like, you know, sexual violence. You know, for me personally, was very, very difficult to not to assimilate it as normal, not to assimilate it as expected, not to assimilate it as like, oh, this can would be who you are, right? And for me, you know, that has been very important. But I know that for most of my brothers and sisters and people that of trans experience, mostly that come from South America, understanding that this is not okay, that we cannot assimilate this as normal, it's a process that doesn't happen so easily.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we carry, and like that shows itself in everything that we do, and that's why I think a lot of, not to like jump ahead to like the next question, but like never mind, I'll let you do that.
That's okay.
By the way, I'm taking this camera with me. I'm feeling it. Something magical about the camera. It's so like feeling it.
I think it's the light.
Totally feeling it. I don't know what it is, but I'm feeling it. Thank you. You all make me feel like
wonderful. So these traumas that we've been talking about, how do you think that they affect our ability to form relationships?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was getting at. It was just like, I think that like it makes it difficult to like form friendships and form like romantic relationships and like professional relationships, because like I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's a trans girl, and she's been like gotten a lot of like street harassment, and she lost her job recently because she was consistently really, really late. And then at a certain point they were just like, you're really late and you can't come anymore. And like she's really late because she would have like just like flashbacks to like things that would happen, and she would just like have to get off the train and just like collect herself and then get back on the train and then go to work. And so like sure, like there's like she was consistently late, but that's because she carries that trauma of being a trans person in the world, and that affected her professional life. And I know how it affects other girls, like romantic relationships. And like for me personally, it just took a while point where I was like, oh, it's like, oh, a normal healthy relationship is something that's like possible. Like I had no idea. I thought that like once you like take on transness, you have to say goodbye to a lot of things. And I thought like long-lasting romantic and platonic relationships is one of them. And now I know that to not be true, but it's something that like affects everything. It colors everything you do. It's in everything, I think, for a lot of women, and for me, it has been in the past.
Yeah, for me personally, it has been very difficult to kind of establish relationships in all kind of senses. Like I had to do a process with even with my own community, right? Some of the traumatic events that happened to me in my life, some of them come from my own community, right? L, from the B, from the G, and from the same T sometimes, right? Like, living in Argentina, as and doing sex work, in the street at night, with alcohol and drugs, things happen, and like, at a certain point, I didn't even trust my sisters, right? Because sometimes, like, we do like shady stuff to each other because we were living in a system that it's very specific, right? And it's hard. So, like, that, I had to like learn how to trust my community. I had to learn how. Sometimes they did shady me, right? And like, having this re-encounter as Cecilia, in my case as an immigrant, I went back there and saw them. It was hard because, this shady history that we have, it's hard for me to trust them. So it was a process. It's definitely hard for me to trust romantic partners, and specifically men. I just don't trust men, right? But then say, oh, how come? Like, well, let's start from by saying that I was sexually abused at age 5 by a man. So with that, it gives you an idea of how hard it is for me to just create relationship with men, and it's because it is a history that had put me in a situation for what I'm scared of masculinity, because I've been oppressed by it, and coming into terms that, it is some good men out there, it wasn't an easy process for me.
So what does it mean to heal? We talked a lot about traumas, but I want to kind of like move forward into having this healing and resilience. So what does it mean to heal? When you think about healing? I know, it's like 5 questions. This question, 5-word question, but it's a lot. I mean, for me, when I think of healing, I think of like this process, right? I think it's really easy when we just say heal, but like I think it's a long process that we go through. Like you were talking earlier about like therapy, and I think for me it was just like I really thought it was like this easy process that I could do on my own, until like I like working on my own only got me to a certain point, right? But in order to like really be able to fully, I think, go through the process of healing, like I needed that next step, which was like help to be able to like go to therapist and talk about things. So for me, I think of it as like this kind of like long, always ongoing process. Like I don't think it ever stops. Like you're always continuously in this process of healing.
Yeah, I recently had this experience where I was up really late and I was thinking about everyone in my, and I was thinking a lot about my father, who like is like the basis of my fear of masculinity, as I'm sure with a lot of us in the world, and just like thinking about the way he hurt me, the way he hurts my sisters and my mother. Then I also like started to consider like his childhood and his history with abuse, and like how like scared boys become like abusers because they experience that, and because it like stops the or for my father's case, I believe that it stopped his like emotional capacity to like understand other people, and it turned him into like this thing that he didn't ever want to be, that he experienced at the hands of his own father. So I think it's like, for me, healing is like stepping out of like being the first step was like as people that have had their own lives outside of being my parents, and then looking at everyone who's done awful things to me or awful things to my community as people and experiences that have led them to the point of getting there. And so it makes it easier for me to understand why they're that way. It doesn't like excuse it, but it's just like, I know where that's coming from, and I've made my peace with where it's coming from, and I kind of have to wash my hands with it because I can't do it for them. I can only do it for myself, and hope that they do make steps forward in healing for themselves. But I can. But for me, it's really helpful to like acknowledge where it's coming from and to look at it in the face and like stop living in denial about like everything and like looking at details really plainly. So for me, healing is that. Healing is looking at people and why they may be that way, and like also being like self-critical and being like looking at myself at a certain point, and like maybe looking at myself at a point where I didn't understand race or class in the ways that I do now, and so understanding that everyone's on their own process of learning things. Yeah, so that's healing for me, I think.
I see healing like as a daily commitment, kind of like, every day in the morning, I have to take a couple of minutes to commit to my healing process, right? Because from the moment that that I turn the news on, it's just like everything comes to pieces. So I have to kind of like commit to heal and like and do the things that I need to do in order to experience wellness. Like whatever, we all have different things that we do to feel better, and that's part of my healing process, right? Also, as healing, what has been for me has a lot to do with me taking responsibility for the things that I do and how those affect myself and others, and being accountable for the life that I live, and being able to be okay with everything that I do. That is part of my healing process. It is a wonderful thing when healing process, in my case, involve people from my past where we need to have conversations. One of my best friends from Argentina called me a couple of months ago, and we've been best friends since I think I was 6 years old, and we went through a lot together. And a couple of months ago, he called and he just brought back some things that happened, years ago. And we had conversations of things that we did to each other. And he was like very like, I don't, and because I said like, thank you for for doing this. I didn't realize that this conversation was important for each other. And like, and he apologized for things that he did to me, and I apologized for things that I did to him. And it was important to live that moment and to understand that we weren't just doing it for each other, but we were doing it for ourselves, right? said, like, this is a very selfish thing that I'm doing. I just need to apologize to you. And like that has been the most healing moment that I had in the last 10 years. And I'm in recovery. I've been healing with, my process and everything, but having that conversation with people that are part of our circles, and having honest conversations where we can own to what we do as people is incredibly healing to me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I had a similar conversation with my mom about sexual assault last Christmas, because it always happens at Christmas. And I was able to tell her my history with it, and then she was able to tell me her history with it, and it was just like, oh, we're not just daughter and mother, we're two people that are deeply hurt.
Yeah. I think like the conversation that you were having before about collective trauma, and you were talking about kind of like this generational trauma, like the trauma that you experienced, and your mother and your grandmother, and how that all kind of like colors, like trickle down. I think like conversations like that is how we can kind of like heal collectively as like a group, right? Like just in this room having this conversation between the three of us, I feel like is healing to have it, to be able to talk about it. So the last question is kind of about bringing us home, would be about resilience. So how can we work to become resilient for future traumatic experiences?
Well, I think that with future traumatic experiences, I think when you know better, you do better, and I think a lot to be said about like mentorship. Like I'm 25, so I'm not like the oldest broad. Like, I know a lot of girls who are like 19 and 20, and like want to one day like that I haven't, and so for me, extend my resources and keep up to date with them, and because I've had women do that to me. Cecilia is one of those women who's done it for me, who's taking care of me. So I feel a responsibility to do it back. So I think that's for one thing. Like the liberated trans body may not be something that I see in my lifetime, but I can make it a reality within the circle that as many girls in contact with, I can make and as liberated from I can. And it's but I think that's what I'm trying to do is to talk to younger girls and also listen to women that have come before me that have had experiences that I don't have anymore because of them. So for me, it's about keeping that going.
Well, I'm not 25 and I don't go to parties anymore. Same thing, man. It's a better time. So let's as much as I can, and I make sure that I'm part of the community. Not only because in a very selfish way they keep me young too, because I don't understand like stuff that is happening now because I'm not part of it. Sometimes I like to hang out with my people, and specifically with trans women of color, young trans girls of color, and learn from them. Whatever I can do to help them, I do that. When it comes to being resilient, I think the idea of resiliency comes with a lot of baggage. It's like under the resiliency umbrella, I'm telling you, you can take it. It's okay that it's resilient. So, and I'm like, yeah, resilience is a great thing, but just because you are resilient doesn't mean that you have to crap people throw you away.
Right.
I'm just against normal. You're resilient, but let's not use resiliency as a justification of crap
No,
that
yeah, I
happens to
agree.
you. So, and I love the word, and I think that it's great to be resilient and everything, but I just gotta make sure that folks don't understand that I am saying, like, you're resilient, you can deal with all this.
I agree with you completely. But then I think back to like what you could do better. So, yeah, like but when something crap is neat, like last time some crap, but this time it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. No, not completely that. It makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how I see it. It's like, yeah, this crap shouldn't happen, but if it together. Thank you so much for joining our conversation, so much for tuning in with us. And we will be back again Tuesday, 2 p.m., just like we usually do. And we'll be announcing our topics via email. Bye.